Hey man, so what's your name?
My name's Michael.
Michael? You mind if I get a little closer to make sure the microphone's picking you up over the... Okay, man. So, you got a bandage on your foot. I assume that came from Harborview Hospital.
No, it came from Swedish.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You were Swedish. Okay. And Swedish...
And their bedside manner sucks ass.
Well, I've had some experiences with Swedish and not being able to get medical attention in an emergency room.
They left me there overnight, hurting, dope sick. I even told them that I was a fentanyl addict and that I was going to be detoxing while I was there. And you know what they said?
What?
Oh, here's some Suboxone.
And how much did they give you?
They were trying to give me 2 milligrams of it, but I was like, no, I can't.
And how
take
many
that.
pills? How many pills?
It's one film that they wanted to put under my tongue. I told them I can't take that because that's got Narcan in it, and that's going to put me into precipitated withdrawals. So they left me there all night without any painkillers at all for my fucking leg
Or anything for your addiction.
or anything at all.
Except for something that was going to make it hurt worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then-
So tell me about the hospital. How long ago did you go in the hospital? How long were
3
you
days
there?
ago.
Okay, and you were there for 3 days?
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you there for? For your foot?
Yep.
What's going on with your foot?
My foot swole up out of nowhere.
Okay, that sounds like a bacterial infection.
Yeah,
It sounds
they
like you have
call it cellulitis.
cellulitis. Yeah, they call it cellulitis because they can say, oh, it's a diabetic thing. It's not always a diabetic thing, and it's an immunity thing. It's because everybody is getting eaten alive in this community, in the homeless community, with MRSA, and it's happening in every city in this country. Okay?
Yes, it is.
I don't know why they're denying homeless people
Fentanyl has
medical treatment.
xylazine in it, and xylazine is something that our bodies cannot process. It's a horse tranquilizer. It pools up in our legs, and it has to come out somehow, and that's where the sores come from.
Mm-hmm.
So we got these weeping sores on our legs. They
Right,
call it
but-
cellulitis. No, it's xylazine leaving our body.
Well, that may be part of what's leaving your body, but it's got to have an opportunistic infection, and it's MRSA, because pretty much all bacterial infections you're going to get now, as I was told 2 or 3 years ago from a paramedic. I was being taken to the emergency room because I had swelling and I had the beginnings of sores, like big ones with pus coming out of them. They were filling up, and they said, you don't understand. It's all MRSA now. It's all MRSA. They've all evolved.
Yeah, I was getting the cellulitis before I even touched Fetty. I was getting it when I was just doing the meth. You know, I attributed it to something being homeless, you know.
Did I ask you your name or did I miss that?
Oh, you asked me my name.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have autism, and that can affect my ability to recognize faces and remember names sometimes. What was your name again?
Michael.
Michael. Okay, I'll remember that because you're like the archangel. And how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 45 years old.
You're
this
45.
year.
How long have you been an addict?
Since I was 40.
Okay.
I've been an addict since I was 13 on methamphetamines. But I've never experienced anything like this in my life. Ever. Until I was 40 years old.
And what did you experience?
The swelling of my legs, the sores, you know, it just won't go away. They give you antibiotics, and they say, oh, well, it should be good if you take these antibiotics and keep it clean.
And then they're not.
No, they're not. I've had this now on my leg for over 45 months. It's on both legs, man.
Well, the thing is, I have the same problem, and I've never touched Fetty. I've never touched clear methamphetamines.
You know,
So there's something more going on with that.
the government has to have their hand in it somehow. Because why else would they be doing a gene testing on you when you're getting blood tests?
They're doing a gene test because they're looking for the bacteria, and they don't know which exact antibiotic to give you. That's how targeted they are now with some of these MRSA strains. They are testing to figure out if they can identify what's going on in there, so they can give you the right antibiotic to try and at least knock it out.
Yeah, they're giving me an antibiotic that I'm allergic to. I'm allergic to Keflex.
Okay?
What did they prescribe me?
You're allergic to fluoroquinolones? So am I, man. I have no feeling from my mid-calf down. I had a hole being eaten in my leg, and I didn't know it because I couldn't feel it.
And they want to sit there and say, oh, this is okay for you. You're fine.
Well, you're not worth considering because you're homeless and you're a drug addict. And because you're a drug addict, and that means if it's not making the hospital a profit, they don't have to deal with a public health crisis like we're facing right now. It's an issue of public health, and Donald Trump won't let the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention do their job. They're not even allowed to talk to the public without permission from the administration. They pulled us out of the World Health Organization, which deals with emerging pandemics and prevents them by containing them when they're still in Africa or Southeast Asia or wherever. Or wherever they come from. If you want to blame COVID on China, you can do that.
Well, that's where it started.
They don't know that for sure. They really don't know what the origins of it. I admit, I've heard some things about the lab in Wuhan, and we don't really know. And people are saying, oh, the government never tells the truth. Well,
why'd they kill the people then?
Do you know that happened, or did you just hear about it? Honestly,
Big news, man.
where was it big news?
In the States.
In what news outlet?
Scientists from Wuhan facility were found dead. Why would they be found dead?
Okay, I'm saying, what news source did you hear that from? Because it wasn't carried in the mainstream news to the best of my knowledge.
It was on CNN,
Two guys.
it was on Fox News, it was on
What
news
I heard on cable news was that yes, there were two guys who worked at the lab that caught COVID early, and they and their entire families died. There were two guys, but they never actually determined that it came from the lab. It could have come from outside, and they honestly don't know because they're not doing contact tracing like they're supposed to.
Nope.
They couldn't roll it back. They're just like, well, I guess we'll never know, and it happened in Wuhan, so it's got to be that lab where those two people died. They don't know. That's not how you prove an argument. It's how you throw mud. It's how you throw mud at people you don't like. So you say Wuhan, you say the China virus, everybody's mad at China.
Yeah, China sucks.
Well, it's complicated, but there's a lot about the Chinese Communist Party that I don't like.
They're just another North Korea.
No, they're really not. Nothing is like North Korea, man. I promise you, nothing is like North Korea.
You're right. Nothing's like old fuck Kim Jong-un.
Did you ever see The Interview?
What, between Trump and him?
Well, no, The Interview. It's called The Interview. It's a movie with Seth Rogen and fucking, what was his name? One of those Hollywood comedy types. I don't know. He works with Seth Rogen a lot, and it's about two guys who find out that Kim Jong-un is their biggest fan in North Korea, and they're invited to come over and do an interview because Kim Jong-un thinks he's gonna get softball questions, and they come and visit North Korea. And one of the first things they do, they're driven past a grocery store. And there's a fat kid eating an ice cream in front of the grocery store. And it's filled with produce and the shelves are stocked. And later on, Seth Rogen has a crisis of faith and he runs into the grocery store. The kid isn't there, but the grocery stores, the produce is all plastic food. The meats in the racks are plastic food. Nothing in the grocery store is real except maybe packaged food, but nobody's allowed to shop there. And they trot the fat kid with the ice cream out when they have to make an impression to somebody who's visiting from another country. And they're interviewing him, and it starts off softball, but somebody gets to Seth Rogen. She's a woman that works in the North Korean military, and she's one of his handlers. And she basically says, they're lying to you, you have to do something. And he starts a line of reasoning with Kim Jong-un, and he says that he loves his people. So Seth Rogen basically looks him, gives him his withering look on camera, and he says, so why don't you feed them? And Kim Jong-un basically goes into paralysis. He doesn't know what to do. And they hit him with another hardball question. This man who in the media has been reported as having no butthole. He never defecates. He's never had to, apparently, because he doesn't have an anus, because people that come from Kim Il-sung's family and Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un, their shit don't stink. And basically Kim Jong-un sharts on camera. And people in the control room are like, he has a butthole. It's actually a pretty funny movie. And it gets into this whole action adventure thing where the military's trying to kill them and they end up killing Kim Jong-un. I forget how, but it has something to do with a helicopter. It's a pretty funny movie, and it's on Netflix. But things about with the groceries and stuff, I've actually heard stories about that. I don't know how true they are, but I've heard them more than once. And that kind of tells me that there's probably fire here if you're smelling smoke. You ever hear of simulation theory?
Simulation theory?
Yeah.
No, but have you ever heard of the Great Reset?
Yeah, I have, but just stay with me on this. Simulation theory is the theory that, statistically speaking, it's a lot more likely that we are living in some version of the Matrix, and always have been, than living in what they call base reality or real reality. And probably by billions of 1 to 1. It's a lot more likely, basically out of billions of possibilities, if there's only one base reality, and if there are billions of simulations running simultaneously, what are the odds that this is the real reality? So people like Elon Musk are pretty much convinced that we're not living in the real world. And the thing is, some circles actually know a lot more about it than most people. And some of those people are organizing. People know something's going on. You can tell in the world something major is starting to happen. And that's because we've had an AI revolution. We've had a quantum computing revolution. And we could actually start to try editing reality. Some people do it a little bit. And there's some weird, sinister stuff going on with that. The point is, things like addiction and withdrawal. Trust me, these problems were probably fixed long before people in the general public even knew there was a real problem. The thing is, they're just not releasing it because they have no earthly reason to reveal how far we've advanced in AI. And they have no financial motivation to release a stranglehold on a population that is now hopelessly addicted to their product. You don't think that people that are making fentanyl, which I've heard some people do one hit and they end up addicted, and they're looking down the barrel of a 1-year detox or something just to stop having the pain and the cravings? You don't think they're not cementing their stranglehold by selectively deciding when certain people are going to have worse withdrawal symptoms than they've ever had in their life? I keep hearing that, and I'm hearing it more and more. I'm not usually the kind of guy that goes in on conspiracy theories. I know what some of these people are sitting on. I know a lot more than most people think I do. I've had a very interesting life. My family will attest to that. They're lying to you and they're using you, and all they want you to do is keep fueling certain interests. And man, if you didn't need to eat, but you could eat when you wanted to once in a while, wouldn't that be better for the environment? Wouldn't it be better for you? If you didn't have to worry about rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss, if you could just be at a steady, much more fit, much more aesthetic level. You know what I'm talking about? What if you could drink as much as you wanted and not get sick and not get the DTs and never like overdose? You wouldn't die from it, and you never get hangovers, man. Like The Good Place. You ever see The Good Place? The Good Place is a comedy with Kristen Bell and Ted Danson, and it's basically about a bunch of people that end up in the afterlife and what happens to them. Because the afterlife is not as perfect as they make it out to be. But you live in your neighborhood, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to use money for anything, and you don't have to worry about holding down a job or anything like that. That's okay, man. You go to sleep.
Oh, I'm not going to sleep.
Okay, it looked like you were nodding off.
No, just thinking.
Thinking about what?
Why this shit's happening?
Why what?
Why is this shit happening?
Because there are certain people that think that that keeping their foot on the throat of the people means about giving less and less. And making people deal with less and less and less, and never more. What's that?
Fair enough.
Because all they know how to do is punish people to keep them in line. That's all they know.
Seems like every time that I get my hands on something that's close to being out of here, it's snatched away from me.
I'm sorry, can you turn towards the camera a little bit? Because I'm having trouble understanding you. You don't have to move. I'm just saying, like, try to turn your head. I'm sorry, man.
No, every time that I end up getting like housing, it's dangled in front of me. They take it away from me because Reach says, "Oh well, we don't have any more available." I've been waiting for a year and a half.
I've heard it can take up to 5 years. That's what I was told
And I've
before
been waiting a year and a half. They finally tell me that I'm up, and then all of a sudden, oh no, we don't have any more. We're not taking on any new clients. Then why did you tell me that I was getting housing?
When I first got out of a BHU in autumn of last year, I was sent to the Mary Pilgrim Inn. I got discharged from them eventually, but what ended up happening was I got sent back to them twice by Swedish and once by another hospital, and they said, "We're sending you to the Mary Pilgrim," and I was like, "What? They're taking me back?" And they're like, "Apparently you have a referral," and they put me in a car and they drove me there, and they're like, "You can't be here. If you come on the property, you're trespassing." I was told I have a referral. Well, I don't know who told you that, but it wasn't us. They kept trying to dump me on someone else as their problem.
That's horrible.
Mary Pilgrim wouldn't take me back, and then I was in the middle of nowhere with no idea how to get into a shelter. Because I wasn't actually given a referral to an actual shelter. Or even a place to stay for the night. So it's after dark, and suddenly I have to figure out where I'm going to sleep.
Yep. Isn't that fun?
Well, I've been a lot more sanguine about it than you might think. I'm choosing to be out among the hopeless right now because I have a mission and I have a plan and I'm working on it. I can't fix everything, but I'm going to try. And if I fail, well, at least I fucking tried.
Thank you for trying.
Thank you, man. So I'm probably going to try and talk to you more later, but this is about 20 minutes and I'm going to put it up on my YouTube page, and if it gains any popularity, and I'm never going to make a cent, but if it starts gaining some popularity, there might be the possibility for GoFundMe and things like that for the people who are appearing. If you have a Cash App card and a cash tag, we can advertise that on the videos. We can advertise. Yeah.
Nobody will let me keep a cell phone.
What?
Nobody lets me keep a cell phone.
What, they seal it? That's a problem I've been trying to figure out since last summer. If we can start finding a way to make cell phones more accessible so people don't need an ID and they don't just get one, and then when it gets stolen 24 hours later, they're shit out of luck. If we can figure out how to get people to stop stealing each other's fucking phones, we might be able to organize and we might be able to actually start helping people.
Oh, I could buy one for fucking, $10 at one fucking place or $20 from another place.
But is your SIM card still going to work in a month?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's small comfort when somebody steals it from you.
Exactly.
Less than 24 hours after you got it. Or no one will give you a case. And you don't have money for a case. So you sit down and it falls on the ground and it cracks the screen in 25 different places.
Yep.
And if you're lucky, in a week, it won't be completely unusable. And then you got to start all over again. See, my phones, I have the more expensive cases. I have never gotten a crack. Never gotten a crack.
I'm a firm believer in OtterBox.
Yeah.
If I
This is an Otter
stock in an OtterBox, I would.
This is an OtterBox Defender,
Yep.
and it's pink for my work phone. I'm not afraid of pink, and if somebody's walking away with a pink phone, I know it's mine.
Yep.
Because no man is going to be caught with a phone this color. Not a case.
So I've rocked one.
Have you?
I didn't care. But
If you were having a Nick fit, you should have said something.
oh, believe me, I am. Do you have non-menthol?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, please.
I bought this pack to help somebody else that was going to talk to me about virality and social media theory. And I paid for some breakfast to be ordered, and she ate a little of what I had already. And
Left.
10 minutes before the food arrived, she said, I'm just going around the corner to see if my friend has arrived yet. And I said, well, come right back. The food's going to be here. That was over 2.5 hours ago. She still hasn't come back. I gave her food to Kevin. So I don't care. I'm not going to try and waste any money on her at this point, though, because I'm sorry. It's hard not to paint you guys with the same brush, but I have some thoughts about opioid addiction, and it has to do with the desperation that being dope sick drives people to.
Oh, believe me,
Have you ever read
being dope sick is one of the worst things in the fucking world, man. I hate it.
I've had
I
clients.
hate being addicted to this shit.
How did you get addicted?
Pain management.
So I was in pain management for 12 years, and I started on 2 10 milligram Vicodins a day, so one every 12 hours presumably. And my doctor made sure he at least kept a weather eye on my pill counts and things like that. He made sure I got tested on a regular basis. I wasn't selling my shit, and I wasn't smoking my shit. I wouldn't have even known how to do that. I knew it was done, but I didn't know you use foil and shit like that. And I was told that the pills I was getting were like jury rigged against burning. I don't know how that would work, but
Vicodins are.
so then came OxyContin and oxycodone, and then it got switched to morphine instead of the oxycodone for breakthrough pain, and then there was oxymorphone, and then nothing worked anymore, and it was all diminishing returns on my pain relief and the euphoria I felt. And I basically decided, so one of several things going to happen here. I need pain relief. And so what am I going to do? Like, take too many pills and they have nothing when I get cut off? Or am I going to start buying them and basically overdose just to feel the things that I need to feel?
You know, they suggest.
I switched to marijuana. And that actually manages my pain surprisingly well. And it's practically free.
Yeah.
You like pot?
Are you?
So this is an indica. It's from Infuse. You can get these things for $28 at Zips. Do a few hits, man. That's a full gram, by the way. It's the same as the big cartridges for the vape pens. But you don't have to worry about losing your battery or stripping your screws or whatever. What do you think of that? Does it help at all?
Oh.
It really hurts? Your leg? Yeah, I'm sorry, man. So ordinarily, I'd be able to offer you a leave. It's not going to really... It's going to help with the inflammation and the pain at least a little bit. It's not going to take the edge off the addiction, obviously, but... or the withdrawal. Do you think that's something like... Would a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug like Aleve or Advil or something, would that help you at all with the pain that you're feeling in your leg? I can't help with the dope sickness, man. But, you know, I could spend like a couple of bucks for a foil packet, and at some point I'm gonna make an order from Walgreens or CVS, and then I'm gonna have a bottle of it and a bottle of antacid in my bag in case anybody needs it. So that's the kind of way that I think.
You know, somebody like you would be a blessing to the streets.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. I've been trying to do this since fucking October. And it's really hard because, okay, can I tell you a little bit about me? I was named, in my father's mind at least, I was named after a junkie friend that he grew up with. Okay? Back in the 60s, there was this guy named Mark. And I'm named Marcus. My mom wanted to name me Marcus as a concession to my father about the name, but she basically said, I don't want my son to grow up being named after a junkie. And that's her prerogative, right or wrong. But this guy was a black friend of my father. My father's white, obviously. He's black. They grew up in reform school together in New York City, in, I think, like, I don't know if it was Brooklyn or what it was, but I'm certain they didn't live in Manhattan. But my dad was doing really well as an up-and-comer in sales for Allied Chemical, and he left Mark in his apartment. Mark was staying with him for a while, and while he went to work, when he got home, Mark was gone, and a bunch of my dad's stuff was gone, including... Please don't throw that in the bushes. Don't do that here, man. Well,
I was just getting it away from you for right now.
Okay. Well, we'll worry about it later. The point is, he took all of my father's suits and business clothes, which put a real strain on him to try and replace everything with the money he had available and still look presentable at work. So he endangered my father's livelihood. And my father still wanted to name me after his friend, despite the fact that they never saw or spoke again.
That's crazy.
Because I think my dad probably understands these things better than I did at the time, and probably better than my mother has ever been. What?
The attitude of addiction?
I don't know. We never talked about it. But he wanted me named after his best friend. And, you know, I learned early on, I read The Dark Tower. You ever read The Dark Tower by Stephen King?
Yeah.
Okay, The Drawing of the Three is one of my favorite novels of all time.
I just did not like Dark Tower.
You didn't like the seventh book, or you didn't like the series at all?
I didn't like the ending.
We'll talk about that another time.
It just cycles back to the beginning.
It's more complicated than that, and we can talk about that. But the point I'm trying to make is, I learned from Eddie Dean, never trust a junkie. Okay? I didn't know anything about addiction. I learned a lot from that book, but I learned a lot more dealing with actual addicts. Never trust a junkie. I have stuck my neck out a little bit, and I have almost always been disappointed. And that's not saying I'm prejudging you, but I'm not going to give you $20 and send you to the store for me. And I'm certainly not going to give you my debit card. And I've actually had people think that I'm dumb enough to not only give them my debit card, but give them my PIN so they can take money out of an ATM so they can fix. That shit's just never going to happen. But I've tested people, and things like what happened with Rev, the woman that took the food and went away, or ate. I'm sorry, no, that she didn't stay for the food. And so I know better next time, and I'll be a lot less likely to try with anyone else. I wanted to have a meeting with this guy, Steven, who lives in Jefferson Terrace. And he just flat out ripped me off. And all I wanted to do was have a conversation with him where he wasn't dope sick. And he's like, we'll go talk. So he got his shit. It was like $5, okay? I don't care about that walking into a situation. I said, I just need to pee at Diva Espresso. We stopped at Diva Espresso. He insisted on wheeling me right to the door. I said, I'll be back 2 minutes tops. 90 seconds later, I open the door. He's fucking gone. He basically watched me close the door and he walked out and briskly walked away, I'm guessing. Okay, so you know what? He was interested in this project. He's an up-and-coming YouTuber, but he's also a fentanyl addict. And I don't know what his reasons are. The way he was talking when we first started talking about the project, I don't know what's going on. But he got his $5 and he fixed. And now he won't pick up his phone. So that's on me, and I'm never going to make that mistake. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Call me when you're well. I just can't get involved. Not even for $5. Not if you're going to turn around and do me like that. And I'm not really going to trust anybody else with that sort of situation. At least not anytime soon.
You know, it's sad that other people have fucked it up for me. I'm one of the only people that I know, besides maybe Kevin, or even my buddy Pee Wee. We're the only ones that we believe we only have two things in this world. That's our word and our balls.
Our balls?
They're two things that you can never fucking take from a man.
Okay.
Whether we're addicted or not.
Okay.
I still keep my word, so therefore I have my balls. I will always be a man and I will stand tall and proud.
I'm out of
Proud
that.
to fucking be an American. And I say thank you to every soldier that has served in the military. I say thank you. And I say to those Vietnam vets that came home, thank you for coming home.
Well, my stepfather will be glad to hear that because he's a Vietnam vet who actually made it
I
out
love
of...
hearing their stories.
He made it out of basic. I'll tell you some of his stories. But he made it out of basic, and he was out in the field his first day, and he had a buddy in his platoon from basic. Okay? So, first day out, they are waiting for a pickup from a helicopter, and they're just hanging out waiting, and his friend from basic all of a sudden goes, oh shit, boom. Stepped on a landmine, killed instantly. My stepfather got shrapnel all up and down his arm and his shoulder and lost 40% of his ability. He was getting 40% disability. And then he had a heart attack that they determined was due to Agent Orange. And they gave him 100% disability all the way back to the late 60s when he was in the Tet Offensive in Saigon.
It's amazing that it took that long for it to actually happen, but he got his justice.
Well, he didn't, because there was a time when he and my mother had been together less than 10 years where he had nightmares and would wake up crying or screaming, and my mother tells me it's back to that. He's having nightmares and he's screaming in his sleep. So he's still being tortured. You know, did you say that about soldiers? Because I'm wearing a little camo and I got an American flag here. Because people keep...
Because you said you're going to be putting this on YouTube?
Yeah.
I want the fucking veterans to see this.
Okay. Okay, man. I'll put in a special note about veterans.
Because our veterans are what we have to actually say thank you for this country for.
You know what? I agree, and that's fine. But I'm kind of with
Our society is it's sadly disintegrating.
I'm kind of with Jello Biafra that, okay, so people say I support the troops. You know, everybody says that, right? So Jello Biafra used to say things like, I posit that I care about the troops more than you do, because I'm saying bring them back home and stop using them as a bludgeon on other countries
We are not the goddamn world police.
No, and
Motherfuckers need to stop thinking that we are.
Team America was a brilliant movie.
It was great.
It was fucking brilliant. It was so good.
Jihad.
They were so politically correct. And I love what they were saying with the Film Actors Guild. You remember the Film Actors Guild?
That movie was fucking epic, dude.
The thing with Kim Jong-il being a cockroach inside a robot was a little much. I'm like, where did that come from? But
well, he kind of is. But you know.
So Joe LaBiafra used to say, I care about the troops more than you because I say bring them home.
I've always said bring them home.
Yeah. Stop using.
We don't need to be out there losing lives.
Stop
fighting other people's fucking wars.
Stop using the children of proud American patriotic families as cannon fodder.
You know,
and stop making them die for a dream that doesn't apply to them and never will.
We got 18-year-old kids that are going into the military, getting taught how to kill, getting taught how to, you know, go over there and stand up to the United States of America. Well, guess what? They're not in the United States of America. They're in Afghanistan. They're overseas fighting wars that are fucking bullshit.
Okay, do you remember the whole thing with going from Afghanistan, and before Afghanistan was over, we invaded Iraq?
I almost lost a fucking brother-in-law because of that goddamn war.
I knew a guy who had he had joined the National Guard, and he wanted to go active military after September 11th. Before he got deployed, let me finish. Before he got deployed, he told me back in beginning of October, late September, early October, he said we were going in for special training, and we were told by our chain of command, don't make any plans. Because as soon as we're done in Afghanistan, we're invading Iraq. And this was like a year before it happened.
Yep.
And he said it's already been decided. It's already been decided.
Home. Desert Storm went into Desert Shield. We're still there. Teaching them how to try to police their own fucking country.
Desert Storm and Desert Shield were 91.
I do know this.
Okay. Well, I recorded
like I said, I almost lost a brother-in-law who proudly went over there.
I recorded the entire Gulf War on the news. I recorded the news channels just so I could have a record, and then my parents threw away my videotapes.
That sucks.
I also had newspaper headlines.
You can still go online and look them up in the internet, because guess what? The news, they always got their stuff.
Yeah.
You can watch all the videos. You can download them. You can do whatever. But our 18-year-old kids go out there. They're fighting this senseless war. They get hurt. They come home. They got blew up by an AED or fucking IED or some dumb shit like that because they're just trying to clear a road. That's wrong. Because they're now 19 years old. They come home. They're still a fucking goddamn juvenile. You've taught this man how to kill. You've taught him how to be a fucking man. But now you take his rights away to buy cigarettes. to basically be a...
Hand me one of those, will you?
To be an adult, you now have to be 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I do believe alcohol should stay at 21. Do I believe cigarettes should be there? Fuck no. I did not agree with that.
You know what? I don't have a problem with making it 21 for cigarettes. The precedent has been set for alcohol, and if you're gonna say it's good for one thing and it's not good for another, well, you're already sliding down the slippery slope. You're Jack and Jill tumbling down the hill. But
they'll teach the kids how to go across country.
Mm-hmm.
They'll fight, get shot at. Look at Benghazi, for God's sakes. Hillary Clinton's goddamn little fucking turd. So many soldiers got killed there. We lost some good people there.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn good soldiers. All because of one fuck up.
Okay, well, you have to understand there's complexity to any issue. I'm not going to blame it all on Hillary Clinton. I'm tired of people trying to make her.
She had to take responsibility for it. She actually said it was her problem.
And you know what? Eisenhower or Truman said the buck stops here. The buck stops here. You have to blame Obama and leave her alone because she's a Secretary of State that's a woman. That's a good part of why they were.
Yeah, he was something else, wasn't he? The first and only black president. You know, Martin Luther King, he was great.
I voted for Obama, and
I'm a Republican.
Okay, and that's your prerogative. I'm just saying, this is not.
Like Hillary Clinton's fucking dude.
Okay, well,
he was all right. He was taking our deficit away.
I'm not going to argue about stuff you don't like from Obama or whatever or Hillary.
You do have to blame him.
No,
you do.
Yeah,
Hillary Clinton actually took it.
It's so political.
She owned it.
Okay, the thing is, I watched both parties reduce the other side's views to.
I watched the president.
Okay, I just like to get to the point of it.
I watched the president fight through the Democratic run of impeachment after impeachment, after federal case, after this, after that. Well, now we got a felon as a president.
Okay.
49-time convicted felon at that.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't been sentenced. You know why? Because he gave himself immunity.
No, that's not what. That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
By becoming president again, he now has the immunity that makes it to where that has to go away.
That's not what happened at all. That's not what happened at all. No.
The judge sentences him after he leaves office.
Do you know what his? Yeah, he was convicted after he left office.
Mm-hmm.
He was charged after he left office.
They started the charges before he left office.
He was not officially charged until much later. In many cases, this 3.5 years he was complaining about was because his lawyers have been fighting and arguing and dragging their heels to drag it out as long as possible. He basically uses a similar playbook to Scientology. Okay, so.
You know, I've sat there and I've watched some of the videos down there at the Scientology place. They're not as kooky as you think they are, bud.
Okay, which videos have you watched? Because I watched the orientation video, and that shit was bad shit. It was bad shit.
It's nuts. I'm not saying it's not. But it's not as kooky as everybody wants it to believe.
Why not? Why not?
These guys are out there doing things for the world. They go out there and they help fucking at earthquakes. They do shit like that.
You know what they do at places like earthquakes?
They do food.
And they do touch assist, which basically means they put their hands on somebody's back and flow energy into them to heal them. Yeah. And you know what?
But still, they don't show that on the videos.
No, they don't. But what ends up happening is what they really want to do is tell you all about Scientology. And the thing, when they started getting money, when they started getting money for, let me finish. When they, I forgot what I was saying. When they started handing out food and doing touch assists and stuff like that, it was because they wanted to get their hands on government money through the faith-based initiative program. Something that I had to convince my mother, Pat Robertson, did not want any part of, because he said, if you start opening this up to religion, then that means it has to be open equally to all religion. And that means groups like the Moonies and Scientology, who are everything they do is based on swelling their numbers and getting money. And what ends up happening is they then have a right to demand and get taxpayer dollars when all it's doing is going into recruitment, however thinly veiled it is. So, I mean, they do not do charitable shit unless there's something in it for them. Scientology is pretty close to pure evil as I have ever heard. And I ought to know, man, I was the one who designed the Xenu story from Trapped in the Closet on South Park. I designed it in 2000. I said it needs to have the Xenu story, and those fucking DC-8 rocket planes, those space planes, had better be in it. But my big thing was, this is my big addition. I told Bob Minton on July 15, 2000, I said, South Park stuff goes viral all the time.
Oh, yeah.
South Park stuff goes imminently viral.
Not PC at all.
And streaming in high res was not a thing that happened. It was pretty lossy, even on YouTube back then. If YouTube was even a thing in 2000, the point was the videos that people were trading around were lossy, and it was hard to read text on the screen. I ought to know, I'm an anime fan, and I was all about the subtitles at the time.
Yeah, I love my
But
anime.
let me, so, and we can talk about that later. The point I'm trying to make is, it was hard to read text. So I said, you need to have a pale white background for the subtitles, and it has to say in black and white letters, all caps, this is what Scientologists actually believe. And I'm a social engineer, man. I try and read the enemy's moves. I'd been studying Scientology and reading up on game theory for 3 or 4 fucking years. Okay, what was South Park, where Scientology's first move gonna be when they saw the Xenu story on South Park? If there was no disclaimer, they're gonna say, well, it's a parody show. They're gonna say ridiculous things. And they tried to deny that the Xenu story was true without denying it. There's a video where their spokesman gets on CNN or wherever, and they're like, so apparently Scientology is secretly about ridding the body of space alien parasite spirits? And the guy said, he never says that's not true, and he never says it is true. He says, does that sound ridiculous to you, Dave? It's incomprehensible to me. He didn't say it was a fake. He didn't say it was a lie. He just said it's incomprehensible to me. What the fuck does that mean? I knew that they were going to try and deny it and use doubt to fuel the narrative that that's not really what Scientologists believe. So if you put it front and center right in the video that everybody's trading by the tens of millions on Monday morning, then you've cut off their legs at the knees. You basically cut their argument right out from underneath them. That's why when I designed 4chan, the initial design of 4chan was Scientology went after servers. I said, this needs to be housed in a foreign country. I said, it needs to be owned by Shell Corporation, owned by Shell Corporation, owned by Shell Corporation, owned by Dummy Corporation, in third world countries and wherever, where it's going to take them a year just to untangle the legal mess to discover who owns it. And then they find another front and another front and another front. So it takes them 2 to 3 years just to shut down 4chan. In which case, numbers only go up forever. That's why 2 years before they started protesting Scientology, Anonymous manufactured a schism in 4chan, and somebody started 5chan. And there was a space holder saying, watch this page, domain under development for 6chan. That's why the first time that there was a real schism, I think they ended up with 8gag. It was a dare to Scientology, try me, because 5chan was going to be set up the same way, but better, and 6chan was going to be set up the same way. Basically, the second it looked like the gig was up and it was just a matter of time, you start making, because numbers go up forever. We could have like 69chan. Scientology never tried, because they knew it was like giving steroids to African hornets and then poking their nest with a stick. I also started Don't Fuck with 4chan. You ever hear of that one? It was real big around around 2010 and after that. Don't Fuck with 4chan, right alongside with 4chan or B are not your personal army. Oh, it's cold. Oh, shit, it's almost an hour. I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to upload it. But just to wrap up one thing, the reason that I asked if you thought I was a veteran was because people see the camo and the American flag and they're like, thank you for your service. Like, I've never been a soldier.
Veteran or anything like that. So,
okay, well, you see my flag.
That's a recognition.
Of what?
Soldiers.
No, it's not. Do you notice anything about the flag?
It's facing forward, upside down though.
It's upside down.
Yeah. Have you noticed any of our soldiers' flags on their shoulders? They're always upside down as well.
No, they're not upside down, man. I promise you, American soldiers are not wearing American flags upside down. No, they're reversed. They're reversed. And I don't know why they do that. I think it has something to do with front-facing cameras flipping the image so the flag still looks okay when they see it on videos. No, man. No. Upside down flags are specifically country under distress, invaded, at war, at civil war, that sort of thing. It basically is like saying, well, we elected a dictator, now what are you gonna do? That's what that flag says. And I'm not saying anything about Republicans or the Republican Party right now, but I have a very dim view of Donald Trump, especially with what he's doing right now.
He's doing exactly what he said he would do.
And that's part of the problem. People, when someone tells you who you are...
He's keeping his promises?
No, I'm mad because he's trying to get rid of fundamental constitutional rights. Like habeas corpus. It doesn't matter. The Supreme Court should not be allowing this, man. It clearly says, a plain text reading of the Constitution basically says people have a right to due process and they have a right to habeas corpus. You can't just throw someone in jail without cause, no matter who they are. And if they're doing it to people who aren't citizens, how much longer is it going to be before they start doing it to people who are citizens? If they can take it away from them, they can take it away from you. That's all I'm trying to say right now. Donald Trump is a very complicated topic for me, because I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Not at this time. Not on camera. Nobody gets the joke about Donald Trump.
He's not a joke.
No, there is.
To show you that he actually is.
Look, it's not a pejorative, man. I'm not saying Donald Trump is laughable. I'm just saying nobody recognizes what Donald Trump actually is yet, and people are going to feel so stupid when it's over. A lot of people are going to feel really stupid.
Maybe not.
Because Donald Trump is in on the joke too. All I'm going to say right now, Donald Trump is...
No matter how much this hurts, I gotta go find Kevin.
Okay, well, I can go back with you. I'm going to stop recording now. It's almost exactly 1 hour.
All right. Well, thank you
All right.
for interviewing me, man.
Yeah, and I'll do more later, and I'll keep doing it if you're interested, man.
Yeah, no problem.
So this was Michael, age 45, signing off.
Thanks.